On paper, these cars may not seem like obvious rivals, but both have 296 brake horsepower and distant rally heritage to call upon for their performance kudos. With 407 Nm, the Subaru has a fraction more torque than the 380 Nm Audi. But it's where that torque arrives that really makes the difference. In the Subaru, you've got to wait until 4,000 RPM to get peak torque, whereas in the punchy Audi, it arrives at just 1,800 RPM, meaning these cars have got very different characters. At £33,245 with a 6-speed manual gearbox, the Audi S3 is more expensive than the Subaru. But the £28,000 995 WRX clearly doesn't have the premium badge and upmarket cabin of its Audi rival. So let's find out how this pair compare on the road. So there was a time when we thought the new WRX wasn't going to come to the UK, but fast Subaru fans can relax because it's finally here. Now, in an age when cars are accused of all feeling the same and looking the same, there's no doubting that a WRX doesn't feel or look like anything else on the road. A lot of performance car fans will forgive the Subaru's cabin because this car is all about the driving experience. And if you've driven a WRX before, then this new car will feel very familiar. First of all, the boxer engine sounds the same. You've got that unique sound from about 4,000 RPM as you start to work it hard. You've got a gearbox that's got quite a short shift on each change, but it's slightly notchy, quite a mechanical feel. And the steering as well is really very typically Subaru, because you've got a very fast steering that's at the same time quite light, which can be a little bit disconcerting. It's also got quite aggressive self-centering. So at first it can make the car feel quite pointy and a little bit unnerving. Once you get used to it, you realise that that's a contributing factor to what makes this car feel so agile. The other factor obviously is those diffs. The diff is quite aggressive, and again, as before with the old car, you can adjust the diff using the controller down here, and even in its less aggressive settings, you can really feel it working, and traction really is never an issue on the road. So you find the right bit of road and you can really start to enjoy the Subaru. There's a usual Subaru firm, strong brake pedal, and there's just so much grip. The body control is really taut. When it comes to the ride, it is a firm ride and you can feel the wheels reacting to imperfections, but from memory I think it's a bit better than the old car, and it's not so uncomfortable that you'd find it unbearable. So even on a typical British back road like this, the car is pretty stable over bumps, doesn't get knocked off line or unsettled by mid-corner bumps. But then if you keep working the engine above 4,000, you're never short of performance, never short of acceleration, and body control is really good. And once you get up to speed, the steering starts to feel a little bit more natural than it does at lower speeds. This is a car that you really will enjoy on the average British road. Okay, we're not surprised with how the Subaru handles and performs, but how's it going to compare to the Audi S3 Saloon? Okay, so now we're in the Audi, and it's a really interesting comparison, this test, because really these two cars in some ways couldn't be more different, and yet they've got exactly the same power and very similar performance on paper. Now, obviously, the first thing you notice when you get into the Audi is the interior is just in a different league to the Subaru. So the new A3 it's one of the newest Audis on the market, so it's got one of the nicest cabins that Audi make, and then that's a real contrast to the dated cabin of the Subaru. The driving experience is completely different from the Subaru too. Obviously, where the Subaru is really vigorous all the time, you know, the engine needs to be worked hard and the steering reacts to bumps in the road, and it's got quite aggressive self-centering. The Subaru always feels vigorous, always a bit sort of raw. The Audi is the complete opposite. It's very relaxed, just drives like any other well-sorted, fast Audi. But the performance is there. This engine's got exactly the same power as the Subaru's engine. Obviously, it's a 2-litre turbo. Torque is down on the Subaru. It's got 27 Nm less. In the Subaru, it doesn't really get going until 3,000. In the Audi, you've just got really instant power all the time, so you don't feel like you have to work the engine so hard. Out of tight corners like this one, it's just on the throttle, instant power, and it's just right there. And with the drive select system in the dynamic mode, you get quite a sort of aggressive induction noise, and it feels not as vigorous as the Subaru, but just as fast on the road, if I'm honest. And the handling's pretty accomplished as well. Nothing feels as sharp as the Subaru, so the steering's not as sharp, and the way that the diffs work is not as aggressive, but there's plenty of traction, decent body control, the car turns in nicely. It's not a thrilling car on a road like this, but it's just very, very accomplished. very easy to drive quickly, and I suppose that's really the point of a fast Audi. In terms of the ride quality, Drive Select allows you to adjust the dampers. In the sportiest setting it is fairly firm, maybe it's still a fraction less firm than the Subaru. Go to the comfort settings and actually it becomes relatively comfortable. You do still get a sense that the primary ride's quite comfortable, but the large wheels still thump into big imperfections. But this is definitely a performance car you can live with every single day and not feel like you're having to make major compromises, which probably gives this a bit of an advantage over the Subaru, which unquestionably does have a lot of compromises. But the next really big question is, which of the two is the fastest? Well, to answer that question, we're going to head off the road and onto the track and have an Auto Express drag battle. Off the line, both cars have superb traction, but the Audi is nearly 100 kilograms lighter than the Subaru. And that shows by the time we reach 60 miles an hour. The S3 punches to 60 in 5.4 seconds, whereas the Subaru is 2/10 behind at 5.6 seconds. The Audi hits 100 miles per hour in 13.3 seconds, stretching its advantage over the Subaru, which comes across the line in 13.7 seconds. So which car comes out on top in our unique test? Well, Subaru fans will love the unique sound of the WRX's Boxer engine and the car's unique character. But the Audi has a much nicer cabin, it was faster in the drag race, and it's a nicer car to live with day to day. Yes, it's more expensive, but if you want a fast, comfortable and stylish performance saloon, the Audi S3 is the one for us. Performance cars taking on two-wheel drive rivals. Click on the left to see the Golf R take on the Seat Leon Cupra R, and click on the right to see the Mercedes AMG A45 take on the BMW M135i. And don't forget to click on the Auto Express logo to subscribe to our channel.